Alice Moore, is suing her niece, office manager Kimberly Kayla, for having her falsely arrested for an assault. Kimberly is countersuing, claiming Alice broke her arm.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Moore versus Kayla.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Whew. Family that certainly does not get along well. Miss Moore, the defendant is your niece.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that she had you falsely arrested for assaulting her last year during the time that your mother was ill and dying.
Yes, ma'am.
You went through a trial recently and were acquitted.
Yes,
found
ma'am.
not guilty. And you're suing her for the false arrest and for the year that you spent facing these charges. The defendant says that the charges were true and that she is counterclaiming for her injuries. Her injuries, I believe, were broken arm.
Yes, ma'am.
When was your mother ill last year?
My mother became ill early in January, but she really got bad in March of, it was 2003.
And when did this incident occur with your niece?
March the 10th, after I flew to Texas to be beside my mother who was dying at her home.
So you tell me your version of what happened, what led up to this incident.
Saturday afternoon, my sister, Brenda, had instructed me to give medication to my mother every 4 hours without stopping. And it put my mother in a very...
What kind of medicine was it?
One was a morphine and the other one was for anxiety.
Your mother had cancer?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of cancer did she have?
Cancer of the liver.
So the morphine was prescribed to keep her calm.
Yes, ma'am, but on the prescription of the bottle, it says every 4 hours as needed. And my question was, that night she was totally out of it, and my brother he was there that night, and he had to pick my mother up out of the bed because she could not move at all. And we did not give her the medication every 4 hours like my sister had instructed. And I had asked my other sister in the morning about the medication.
So that caused a problem with your niece?
They were all upset because I would not give the medication like that. But anyway, Sunday night, I left and went out to another sister's house to rest. And when I came, that morning on Monday, my daughter and I came back in the afternoon, and I'd come to the conclusion I couldn't handle seeing my mother's death.
Okay.
Because of my heart condition and my nerves.
Okay, you couldn't handle it. Okay.
And I was talking to my husband on the phone, and I told him he could reach me. I was on the porch, and I told him he could reach me out at my other sister's. Brenda got mad at me, and I don't want to have a consultation with my mother dying.
Why was she angry with you? What was she saying?
She just felt that I was there trying to take over. And she was already had said that she was going to come out there and whip on me on Monday, and I didn't pay any attention to that in a phone call that we had.
Was that over the medication?
Yes.
Is that so far, is that right?
No, ma'am.
Okay, step up. Brenda, what were you angry about?
I wasn't angry with her. I was actually relieved that she was there to help us because we had had 3 months prior of taking care of my mother. Everybody was stressed out. It was a bad time. My sister had called me and she told me that the hospice people had told her not to give my mother the medication except when she needed it. I told her specifically, Alice, when you're there, you do what you need to do. I told her I was calling a meeting with the hospice people on Monday. The whole family would be there. We could all understand. I learned more about death than I ever wanted to know with my mother. And I didn't want to go through this by myself. I wanted my sisters there. I wanted help. Right. So when we asked for a meeting, she said 10 o'clock. my sister couldn't be there. She was so concerned about my mother and the medication, but she couldn't be there to see what the hospice people. We were doing exactly what they said, exactly what they said.
Which is medicating her every 4 hours and not letting the pain grab hold of
Right,
Well, and
right.
they
That's
told us-
exactly how they explained it to her,
Right.
to us. You know, when the pain kicks in, this is how she's going to be. Don't let the
Don't
pain
let it get
come.
there.
You know,
Right.
we'd been there with her. We didn't want to let the pain come. Nobody, you know, she was going to die. We knew that. We
got it.
wanted it to be peaceful.
I got it.
And that was my mother's wish, to die at home.
Kim, tell me what happened in the kitchen on the 10th of March.
Well, I was in the bedroom with my grandmother, and I heard them in the kitchen. And she's telling her, you know, you took her out of the nursing home. You shouldn't have took her out of the nursing home. She's going to die. She's going to bleed. You know, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And they were telling her, then leave. You know, that's fine. If you can't take it,
Put your hand down, Miss
leave.
Moore.
You know. And when I looked outside, she was slapping at my mother. And another one of my aunts stepped in. Well, she grabbed her and she threw her down to the floor.
Threw her
Alice
down.
threw my other aunt down.
What's
to
her
the
name?
floor. Her name was Billy.
Go ahead.
And then I was, now of course I had walked in there in the middle of this, and my brother walked in, and she started screaming at my brother. And she was screaming obscenities that you would not believe. And she was, you know, then she started out the door, and my brother went out after her. Well, I went out after him. Then she coming out there, and she's telling me, you know, we need to just call an ambulance for Billy, you know, we need to just go. So I'm going back in the house, and I get the phone to call the police. And as I walk back outside, because I'm hearing screaming now back at the porch. And I'm like, well, I thought she was going to leave. She wasn't leaving. And it's because her daughter over there was telling her, you don't have to leave. They can't make you leave. This is your mama's house. You don't have to leave. You know, her daughter was put in a quarter. And she knows if you push her, she's going to lose it. You know, she has a history of violence and just psychotic behavior. And I look at her and I told her, just go, just get the out of here. You know, so I told her, just get the, and I'm pointing at her, and as I'm pointing at her, she grabs this arm, and she pulls me down. Her daughter steps between us, and she popped my arm down over her daughter's shoulder. It broke this bone up here into pieces. They had to go in and put a rod, you know, have a permanent rod in the middle of my bone.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was leaving and they attacked me.
They
They
attacked-
didn't take my statement. The police didn't let me give a statement. My lawyer will testify to that. Why don't you call her?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alice Moore says her niece, Kimberly Kayla, had her falsely arrested for an assault. Kimberly says during an argument, Alice broke her arm.
What happened to Billy?
Billy was taken to the hospital also, and she had some sciatic nerve damage in her back.
She was taken to the hospital that day?
Yes. But Billy and I were both taken to the same hospital in the same ambulance.
What hospital?
To Spine Memorial Hospital.
Do you have a police report for me, please?
Yes.
It's right there.
Okay, Miss Moore, coming back to you. Now we're going to come to the point in this story where you're going to tell me your version of how her arm got broken.
Well, first of all, there was a consultation in the house, and Brenda held me and Kim, and I have a sworn testimony from the court where my attorney said, and you slapped her? And she said, yes. At that time, she hit
Just a second. Who slapped you?
Kim hit me in the face with the telephone while my sister held me in the kitchen and would not let me leave.
Let me see the testimony. Oh, well, she says, do you remember slapping Alice? She said, yeah. I told you in the kitchen when she was pulling my hair and we were going back and forth. And you slapped her? Yes.
But, Judge, I could not be pulling her hair.
Just a minute. Don't explain. You have to read me the whole thing, Miss Moore.
Okay.
She didn't just admit slapping you. She said you were pulling her hair
But
and you were going back and forth and she slapped
At the time
you.
she slapped me, I had my hands restrained by my sister Brenda.
I would like you to tell me how her arm got broken.
Well, from there, I went outside and was leaving. At that time, her brother stopped me from going to the car. He pounced over the porch and pulled his hand back to hit me. And you're looking at a guy, I wouldn't take my eyes off because he lifts weight and he could have killed me. And he said all kinds of things to me as I was trying to leave. My daughter stood in between us to stop it.
Okay, so your daughter got in between you and her brother.
Right.
Okay.
And as I was looking for my granddaughter, Kim.
Just a second. If your daughter got in between the two of you, why didn't you go back to your car?
I was going, but my granddaughter had the keys to my car.
Where were you looking for her?
Right there in front of my mother's house.
Well, you just have to look. How old is your granddaughter? Is she a little teeny girl?
Yes.
How old is she?
I thought she was about 11 or 12. That's what she looks like.
How old?
She just turned 18, Judge.
So she was 16 at the time.
15. She hadn't turned 16 yet.
15 at the time. Well, you're not looking for her on the ground, madam. Listen to me. If you're looking for your granddaughter who's outside, and the people who are outside, according to you, your nephew, and your daughter, that's 3 people. That's who you told me were outside, and you were looking for your granddaughter around that area. That
and Kim came off the porch, charged off the porch with something and hit me in the face, and I could not see. I put my hands up, and I have pictures of where she hit me in the head, and I couldn't see at that time.
Just a second. Hold on a second. Show me the pictures that you have. I don't see anything wrong with your head, ma'am.
I had a goose egg right here.
Not according to the police report.
The police did not come and check me out at all or anything. I went to the hospital, to the emergency room.
Let me see the medical records from the hospital. According to the police report, when they spoke to you, there was nothing wrong with you, except you were complaining of chest pains. That's according to 2 police officers. Listen to me. That's what the police said you complained of. Not a goose egg on your head, not being hit on your head. They took you to the hospital for observation because, listen to me, because of the chest pains. What I want you to do is give me the hospital record.
I don't have that part.
Well,
I could not get that part in time for court today.
Well, that's unfortunate because you've had over a year to get that hospital record. Who are you?
I'm her husband, Your Honor.
Were you there?
I talked to her at 7 o'clock.
He was on the phone when I went in to tell him I was leaving.
She was leaving.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't.
My daughter, Frankie, was there.
Oh, I believe Frankie was there. You can step up, Frankie. I believe you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
How did your cousin's arm get broken?
By her brother yanking her arms. When she had my mother's head, she grabbed my mother by her left hand, with Kim's left hand, by her hair, yanked her head over where she's completely bent over. My mother's face is touching the cement. Kim's brother runs from behind Kim and grabs Kim with his arms like this, and he's pulling her, and she's hitting my mother upside the head with the cordless phone in her right hand, and I grab at the phone, and Scott is pulling Kim at both of her arms backwards. No one touched her arms except for her own brother.
Okay, fine. You can sit down. It's very unfortunate when everybody gets stressed out in a situation where...
What was unfortunate?
I'm speaking. It's very unfortunate when people get stressed and angry because somebody who's close to them is dying. And put the picture down, madam. Pay attention to me. The first mistake that you made was not listening. Your mother was dying of liver cancer. The instructions that you were given to give her morphine every 4 hours were the appropriate instructions. I am not a medical person, but unfortunately, I have been in situations where I know that you're not supposed to wait until you are in pain as needed when you are dying. You're supposed to keep medicated so that the pain of liver cancer doesn't take hold. So these people were taking care of your mother for months before you got there. And then you pay attention, try to get it through. And then you come to the scene and decide, this isn't right. The medication says as needed. I'm not going to give her the medication every 4 hours. And everybody is annoyed at that situation because you're sort of a Johnny-come-lately. They've been there for months taking care of the situation, making decisions without you. They took care of, they were the ones who were up at night, they were the ones who were feeding, and all of a sudden you show up and decide to change the rules. Big mistake. You weren't saving your mother's life, Miss Moore. She was going to die. I'm speaking. She was going to die anyway. The question was she going to die peacefully and not in pain ever, or whether you were going to try, your method of treatment was let her get a little bit uncomfortable, and then we'll give her the medication as needed. Unfortunately, you made a mistake in your choice. I do not believe your daughter when your daughter says that you were beaten over the head with a phone, because there is nothing in any of the official records, including hospital records, which you had every opportunity to get over the last year and a half, that suggests that when you were admitted to the hospital for your chest pains, they noted bruising and swelling on your head that would be consistent with your being hit over the head repeatedly, according to you, and according to your daughter, with a cell phone. So I do not believe you were falsely charged. And I believe you broke her arm.
Oh, ma'am,
I believe
not.
that you... I'm speaking.
I did not. I was leaving and they attacked me.
Okay.
That's
You
all
may
I
have
was
convinced-
doing was leaving.
You may have convinced
they
you,
wouldn't
Miss
let
Moore.
me leave.
You may have...
I didn't care about what medicine they gave Mother. They attacked me. They didn't take my statement. The police didn't let me give a statement. My lawyer will testify to that. Why don't you call her?
Listen to me. I don't want to go any further with this,
And
Miss
I
Moore,
was
because
found
I'm
not
speaking.
guilty of all
I'm
of
speaking.
those.
I'm speaking.
I-
I'm speaking. Speak.
I swear I did not.
Listen to me very
Where's
carefully.
the Bible? I took a lie detector's test even, and I did not touch them.
Your
None of them.
case is dismissed. Did you have any unreimbursed medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
What were they? Unreimbursed medical
Well,
bills.
I have $7,000 right here.
Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
28-year-old craftsman Jamie Cadell and her mother, Margaret Jeannie Pels, are suing Jamie's ex-boyfriend, plumbing contractor John Kuhn, for the value of a stolen money order and for the return of personal property.
Yeah, this is case number 117 on the calendar in the matter of Pels, Cadell versus Kuhn. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
What's your first name?
Jamie.
And yours?
Margaret?
You're a mother.
Yes.
You're Miss Peltz?
Yes, I am.
Miss Peltz, you gave your daughter $500 in cash because there was an outstanding warrant for her, she thought, for back child support.
Correct.
She has children who are in the custody of who?
The biological father.
She can speak.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the biological father.
And how many children do you have?
5.
How old are you?
28.
Are all 5 children with the same father?
No, Your Honor.
Where are the 5 children?
When I got pregnant at 13, and I gave birth at 14, and I had 2 children by the age of 16.
Where are those 2 children?
One is with the adoptive father. My other child was murdered when adopted out.
At what age? 2? Okay. How many children are with their father?
3.
And you have a current child support order, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You fell behind in your child support?
Yes.
Your mother gave you $500 so you could turn yourself in, according to you, and get the warrant lifted. According to your complaint, Mr. Kuhn got possession of this money order and didn't give it back to you. So you want that $500, and you also claim he has your property, clothes, pictures, etc., that he refused to return to you when he kicked you out of the house. You want a total of $1,200 from the defendant. Mr. Kuhn says he never took your $500. You have your $500. That you have a drug problem, that's probably what you used it for. And as far as your property is concerned, he boxed it all up, put it on the porch. He has no idea what happened to it.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Kuhn, how old are you, sir?
48, I'm sorry.
So you're 20 years older than Jamie, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
The two of you lived together for a period of time? Uncross your hands, sir.
On and off for 3 years.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Does she work?
No, ma'am.
Did she work during the 3 years you were together?
Not one day.
So you were taking care of her and supporting her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any of her children lived with you at the time?
No, we fought tooth and nail to try to get some of these children back for her, but that was to no avail.
Oh. Tell me, Jamie, about this $500 money order.
My mother gave me $500.
Why?
And I turned it into...
Why?
Oh, I'm sorry. For my child support, there was a bench warrant that was issued, so I had, instead of paying $160, I had to pay $500 to get it dropped.
Why didn't you pay the child support?
I wasn't working at the time.
Why not?
I've had medical problems that have kept me from working.
What
and
kind of
also,
medical problems?
I had severe hemorrhaging that went on for months. Not only that, Mr. Kuhn was also very controlling in our relationship.
None of that's true, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's get back to the $500. Your mother gave you $500 in cash, right? Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Actually, I had the $500 turned into a money order, which I have the receipt.
Good, I'll take a look at that. So she gave you the $500 in cash. You got a money order. Who told you to get the money order?
I wanted to because I wanted to make sure it went to the child support. I didn't trust Mr. Kuhn because of his drug problem.
Just a second. No, Mr. Kuhn.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Okay, and go ahead.
We did go to turn myself in, and they said that they couldn't find any warrants on me, that I would have to go over to city. It wasn't a matter that I could take care of at that point. It was a Friday, so I wanted to contact my attorney the following Monday to find out what I needed to do to resolve the matter. I ended up going out of town with Mr. Kuhn to Fredonia. He had some work out there to do, and the $500 money order went with us both.
Yes.
Upon coming home from Fredonia...
Which was when?
The Friday following.
So you were there for a week?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Go ahead.
When we had returned home, actually it was Mother's Day. I had run some errands and came home with dinner, and since I wouldn't make his dinner plate, he proceeded to tear up the house and throw objects at me.
Not true, Your Honor.
I'm going to get to you, sir. Uncross your hands. Go ahead.
Upon that, I called my mother to come pick me up because I was afraid for my safety. I left all my belongings. I left with the clothes on my back and no shoes or nothing.
Okay. And?
From there, we contacted an officer the next day to follow me over so I can try to get my things. Mr. Kuhn had changed the locks. My house key no longer worked. We do know he was home. He would not answer the door.
I'm still not hearing about the $500 money order.
Mr. Kuhn was in possession of it. He told me he would not let me have it, that he didn't trust me, that he would return it to my mother.
When did he tell that to you?
We had a huge fight in Fredonia, and I asked for it back.
What was the fight about in Fredonia?
I do not recall what the fight was about.
Do you recall?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Want to tell me about it?
The fight in Fredonia was about the fact that she wanted to cash the money order and spend it to buy pills from a friend.
What kind of pills?
Lortabs in specific.
What are they for?
They are painkiller. They're Lortabs, Oxycontins. This has been a prevalent problem throughout the entire relationship.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. If you don't want to be controlled by somebody, whether it's this man or your mother, you get your behind out of bed and you go and get a job.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jamie Cadell says ex-boyfriend John Kuhn stole her money order and won't return her belongings. John says Jamie used the money order to buy drugs.
Okay. You have a drug problem, Jamie?
In the past, I did, yes, Your Honor.
Well, in the past, I mean, you're talking about yesterday, a month ago, 6 months ago?
I've been clean for a month and a half, Your Honor.
Prior to the month and a half, you've had a drug problem. What kind of drugs?
Loratabs and meth, which John actually introduced me into.
But you've been with him for 3 years, according to him. Is that right, off and on?
About that, yes.
But you lost your children way before that. You lost your children as a result.
When I was very young.
You weren't very young. You were 25. According to you, you're 28 years old.
No.
Listen to me carefully. I'm talking about the 3 children that are with their biological father at this point.
Okay.
You visit with them? Is not an answer. Do you visit with them? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
When?
Right now, it's been suspended.
Okay. Has it been suspended because of your drug use?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
I mean, I was a family court judge, madam. They don't preclude a parent, especially a mother in family court, from seeing her children unless there's a serious problem. So in Fredonia, when you were there with Mr. Kuhn, you had a fight. You said you don't remember what it was about. Mr. Kuhn says that you wanted to buy pills from a friend of his. So if you don't remember what the fight was about, I have to assume that he's telling me the truth.
Your Honor, he needed $50 because he had not gotten paid on his jobs. I told him he could use $50 out of the money order for food for us. He promised to pay me that back when he got paid on this job. It was not for drugs.
Ms. Kuhn, you were not working over the 3-year period, so I assume you were being supported, the two of you, since you were living together somehow. Were you being supported because Mr. Kuhn was working?
Working, but he was also very controlling.
I don't care about controlling. He was working.
Off and on, Your Honor.
And that's how you supported yourself?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And my mother.
What happened to the $500, sir?
I honestly don't know. The last time I saw the money order was on a Thursday evening in my wallet, and by Friday it was gone.
Where were you with it? Were you in Fredonia at the time?
We were in Fredonia at that time.
Now, you drove back when, sir? On Sunday?
Late Friday evening.
You drove back together?
Yes.
Did you ask her about it?
Yes, I did.
What'd she say?
It was none of my business. It was her money. She could do with it what she wanted to. It's what she told me.
What happened on Sunday when you got home?
Saturday, she slept all day, which was something that I was accustomed to. Sunday, about 5 o'clock, she woke up. We had purchased Mother's Day cards for our respective parents, and my mother's in a home. She's disabled. And I told her, my mother's not going anywhere. Get off your butt. Go see your mother. Give her your card. You know, take care of some things. I gave her $25 and told her to bring home some supper, since I obviously wasn't going to get any other way. 4 hours later, she showed up and she was high. She had cold fried chicken, 7 pieces of cold fried chicken, and said that they had cheated her out of the mashed potatoes, corn, or whatever that was supposed to go with it. I had been working at the house. I live on 3 acres, and I had grass to cut. And I was hot and I was tired, and she told me to fix my own damn plate, threw the chicken on the table, at which time I told her she needed to call her mother because I wasn't going to put up with it any longer. As far as her being in fear of her life, I don't know what that's about. She called her mother, and I told her mother over the phone she needed to come get her daughter, that I was through playing this game.
Did she come and get her?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
She came straight away.
Ms. Peltz, either on Sunday or Monday, did you go to Mr. Kuhn's house to pick up your daughter?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And at what time? Don't speak.
It was roughly probably around 5:36 in the evening.
And when you got there, was your daughter inside the house or outside of the house?
She was outside the house.
Where was she outside of the house?
Across the street at a convenience store.
And she got into the car and you left?
Correct.
When was the next time you went back to or telephoned Mr. Kuhn?
The day after we wanted to go get Jamie, my daughter's belongings. When I picked her up, all she had was the clothes on and no shoes. She wanted her court papers and her clothing and her personal belongings, which are pictures of my grandchildren.
Okay, she wanted her clothing and some photographs.
Yes.
And what happened when you got there?
He wouldn't answer the door.
Okay. Do you have her clothing, sir?
No, ma'am, I do not.
What did you do with it?
They called me repeatedly on Monday, made threats, so on and so forth. On Tuesday the 11th, I called them and I told them about 7:30 at night that I was leaving and I would not be home for an entire 24-hour period, that their clothes
Who
were
did you
setting...
speak to?
I spoke twice to their answering machine because they know my phone number and they never answer the phone when I call. That's
Okay,
just
so
their way they do
you
things.
put her clothes outside.
2 bags of clothes, 3 boxes of court papers that were generated from my computer at my expense anyway, but they were her court papers. Nevertheless, she got them. There was a few pictures, an 8x10 and a little bitty photo album about this big of snapshots. This person here happened to be there when I set the clothes out and made the first phone call.
Oh, really? Step up. Tell me your name.
Linda Gordon.
What were you doing at Mr. Kuhn's home?
I'd gotten off work at 6 o'clock that evening. My boss had asked me to please go talk to him about getting him to come down and do some work on our beach bathrooms.
How do you know him?
I used to be an employee of his years ago, and we then became friends.
Anything more than friends?
No, never.
Tell me about what you saw and heard.
When I'd gotten out there, I went out there, was going to speak with Jamie and John, because I had been visiting with them anyway, and see their new house. I hadn't been out there yet. And when I got there...
So you knew Miss Cadell as well?
Yes, ma'am. When I got there, John was in the middle of, packing some things up, and I had asked what was going on. He said she was leaving, and he would be more than happy to come in and give that bid, but he had to get this done first. I actually helped him pack some things, and it was approximately 7:30 to 8 o'clock or so when he did call and say he had packed them, put them out back in a breezeway in a little alcove so they wouldn't be bothered by the weather, and I proceeded to go back into Wichita. He said he'd meet me there.
Is there a key that's required to get into the breezeway?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
And you heard him make that phone call?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the breezeway shielded from the street so that you don't see it from the street?
You cannot see anything from the street. It is a garage breezeway behind the house. There's no way it can be seen. Nobody knew the clothes were there except her and I.
Your Honor, I have a PFA against him because of the incident that took place.
Let me see.
This is the second PFA I've had to take out on him,
the
Your
first one
Honor.
she dismissed. I have evidence here that she dismissed the first one when I paid her child support again.
Your Honor, he's bounced a lot of checks.
What?
I'm sorry. He bounces a lot of checks. He wrote a hot check for her.
Madam, I don't know why somebody who was 48 years old, who was a seemingly irresponsible guy, who has a job, who has a business, takes up with somebody 20 years his junior who's a drug abuser. I don't know why somebody who's, wrapped tight does that anyway. I think that there's something wrong with him. I don't want you to get me wrong. I think that anybody who does that is looking to control somebody else because that's the symbiotic relationship that you enjoy. You're a drug abuser, unemployed, got 5 kids.
I didn't know
I'm speaking. He pays your child support, he takes care of your bills, and he has the ability to say to you, prepare a plate of food for me. Listen to me. That's the dynamics. If you don't want to be controlled by somebody, whether it's this man or your mother or any of the other fathers of your children, what you do is you get your behind out of bed and you go and get a job and support yourself and pay rent and pay food and make a car payment and pay insurance and take care of yourself. I have no sympathy for you, and I have no idea where your $500 is. I have no confidence that he didn't spend it, but I have equally no confidence that she didn't take it out and buy pills. You hearing me?
Yes.
Good.
I have a tracer on that.
We're
Good.
having it
So,
traced.
show just a second. If you have a tracer on it, do you have proof?
Okay.
If you have a tracer, do you have proof that he cashed this money order?
No, I've been waiting for it in the mail. No,
Listen, I don't care what's in the mail. Listen to me very carefully, madam. If you have a tracer and if you're able to show me that he cashed the money order...
It's on that paper.
On which paper?
The very first one that he given you.
Yes. Show me where it says that he cashed it.
No, back behind there is a tracer on the money order, and I'm waiting for the name.
Well, what does that do for me? What does that do for me? I'm the fact finder. The tracer could say she cashed it. The tracer could say he cashed it.
John,
put your hand down. The tracer could say the drug dealer cashed it. It's a money order. It's a blank money order. Do you understand?
I understand that.
Okay, so I have no confidence that your daughter didn't take that money order, just like a person who's involved with drugs steals. Do you understand?
I understand, but he has a drug problem.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Listen to me, madam.
I'm listening.
Mr. Kuhn.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. That's just hilarious.
Don't laugh. You're irritating me. I mean, as much as she is, you're irritating me.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I don't know where your $500 is, madam. I don't know whether your daughter took it or Mr. Kuhn took it. It is just as likely that she took it and spent it on pills as he took it and did something else with it. Do you understand?
I understand.
Very good. Put your hand down. As far as her property is concerned, I believe this witness that he packed up the property and put it in the breezeway. I believe that he did that. And I don't know who came and got it. I don't know whether she came and got it or you came and got it. You think you're going to put one over on me. I guarantee you're not. Now, you have a counterclaim, sir.
Yes, I do,
Your
Your Honor.
counterclaim is that you voluntarily paid her child support payments, $1,200.
That's right.
That's real nice of you. So why are you bothering me with it now?
Because I was promised that I would be paid back this money, and I can document the fact that I have paid. I have received.
Oh, I believe that you paid, sir. I believe that what you were doing is you were supporting Jamie.
I was keeping her out of jail. She went to jail 5 times.
Listen to me, Mr. Kuhn. All you have to do is say, I'm leaving. Do you understand? Or you're leaving. Do you understand?
I did.
That's all you have to do, which is what you did. But then you can't come to court and sue for money. You pay her child support because you were living together and enjoying her companionship, whatever that was. You don't come to court and sue for it now. Do I make myself clear? You knew she wasn't working. You knew she had no capacity to pay you back.
She was supposed to get a job.
Well, she didn't, and she didn't in 3 years.
That's correct.
Right, good. So your counterclaim's dismissed. She was not alone. And I have no clue what happened to the $500, so her claim is dismissed. That's all.
Plaintiff George Vaughn is suing Chihuahua rescue founder Kimmy Peck for the return of a dog he rescued. Kimmy is countersuing for the dog's medical expenses and room and board.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 121 on the calendar in the matter of Vaughn versus Peck. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Mr. Vaughn, let me try to understand what your lawsuit is about. According to what I've read, you rescued this dog, I assume, from a shelter.
Yes, ma'am, from the city shelter.
And then you turned the dog over to the defendant's shelter for the purposes of being, I assume, adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was months ago. And now you want the dog back. Miss Peck says she's not going to give you the dog back because she's afraid that what you really want to do is to have the dog euthanized, because you've done that before with other animals. And she said the whole problem is that you were interested in her socially, and that since she rebuffed your advances socially, you want to get even by taking the dog back. Something like that. Is that right? Okay. I understand, Mr. Vaughn, according to you, that you've donated a substantial amount of money to Miss Peck's shelter. Is that true?
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
How much money have you donated to Miss Peck's shelter?
Roughly $60,000 to $80,000.
You have proof of that, sir?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it.
Your Honor, may I say something?
I just want to see his proof that he's donated that kind of money to your shelter. Okay. How did you become interested in this rescue, in this Chihuahua rescue, Mr. Vaughn?
Well, about a little over 8 years ago, my roommate and I adopted Chihuahuas from Miss Peck here. We adopted the ones that she says could not be adopted out because they were aggressive, they were biters, and we adopted them.
How many did you adopt?
Probably around 4, maybe 5 at the most.
Did you have any of them euthanized?
Yes, Your Honor. After my roommate passed away, it was in her will that all of her animals be put to sleep, cremated, and buried with her. I took it upon myself. She loved her animals, and she did not want them to be turned back over to Miss Peck.
Why didn't you take care of them?
Well, 17 Chihuahuas is a lot of Chihuahuas.
So you euthanized 17 Chihuahuas?
I had 9 Chihuahuas, the ones that were under medication and have had a beautiful, healthy, happy life, and were getting sickly. The older ones, I had them put to sleep.
How many?
9 of them. They was cremated, and they was buried with Miss Peg in a pet cemetery.
She was buried in a pet cemetery?
Yes. That was her wish and her will.
Why do you want this dog back?
I want this dog back to where I can take care of it and give it a proper home at my house.
Why did you give it away in the first place?
Well, I adopted the dog from a city animal shelter because it had mange problems. I wanted it to have a chance to get a good home out in the public. and not be euthanized at the shelter because of its condition.
Okay.
I then took it straight to a vet, which I have papers of ownership and the vet
I
records.
understand. So you turned the dog over to the defendant. Why do you want the dog back now?
Because the dog was not adopted out as it was planned, and the dog did not receive proper medication as it should have, and was quarantined in a little small cages, roughly 2 foot by 2 foot. And it's not right for an animal to be confined like that on top of another cage with animals under it.
I'll hear you. When did he turn the dog over to you?
In December.
Okay, is there any reason why this puppy has not been adopted?
He and the witness who's with him now actually adopted the dog a long time ago from a city shelter, and they broke up. And when they broke up, George gave us the dog to care for. I should probably call the veterinarian who can explain the condition of this dog.
Is there a veterinarian here?
Yes, Dr. Hahn. Could you explain?
Could you step up, please? What kind of skin condition does this puppy have?
He's got a condition called demodectic mange, which is a little like mite that lives in the hair follicles, and he's got Seborrhea oleosa, which is like a...
And there's nothing you can do for him to get him better?
You can control it, but you can't cure it. Well, the mites you can cure in some cases. With him, he's been a real problem because he has a real bad case of it, and it may never be able to be cleared up. But the Seborrhea will always be with him, and it's just a control measures that you have to do to make him feel better, like bathing him regularly. And
do they do that at the shelter?
Kimi does it, yes, Your Honor.
Is it a male or female?
Male.
Male. Does he ever get to go home with somebody, or is he in a cage all the time?
We have a sanctuary as well as a rescue organization. Some dogs I evaluate and I give them a lot of time. If I don't feel they're adoptable, if I don't feel there's going to be someone that I can trust to treat this dog the rest of his life, he will stay in a sanctuary where he will be loved. He will have a lot of volunteers. We're open to the public. This dog I would have to find a very special person for if we were to place him. I'd have to do home checks. I'd have to do surprise home checks the rest of his life.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor, when I adopted the dog from the shelter, I took it straight to my vet. He treated the dog, and then the dog, after it was treated, came back to Miss Anderson's house, my witness, and she took care of the dog until it was well enough to be neutered.
So?
And then the dog was neutered in November the 7th.
So?
And then it was taken to Miss Peck's place.
The question is why?
Why?
Yeah.
The dog was turned over.
I mean, did the two of you, were you living with this lady?
No, ma'am, I'm not. She's a good friend. She's an animal groomer. She does medicate and take care of animals.
Okay, but she didn't want the dog.
Can I speak?
What?
When I'm the one that found the dog at the animal shelter.
So?
I told him, he went in and rescued him.
Good.
He took him to me. We took him to the vet. I'm the one that initiated his care. And by the way, these dogs, demodectic mange is not end stage, and it is treatable, and it is curable.
Okay, good.
Because I have many.
My question to you is, you did not want the dog.
We bailed it out to put it up for adoption.
Okay, well,
at
that's
the time,
what was done.
I had a venue where I adopted him, where I tried to adopt him. We lost that venue. He took him to her, hoping he would get adopted out.
Oh, it doesn't.
That hasn't happened.
Oh, listen to me. All I am saying to you is, you did not want this dog.
If we hadn't have been able to find a suitable home, either one of us would be willing to keep him.
Sit down. You can have a seat, Dr. Hahn. Thank you. This is my problem. It is clear from what you tell me that you were not interested in keeping this dog for yourself, but that you wanted the dog cared for initially by the defendant and adopted by someone else and cared for by someone else. Ordinarily, if you said to me, well, they haven't been able to adopt this dog out because of the condition, I want the dog back now, I might say, well, that sounds like a better plan than keeping the dog for the next 10 years in a situation where occasionally it'll have a play date, but for a good part of the time it's kept in a locked situation. But I think it's nutty to have euthanized 9 dogs to be cremated and buried because some old lady says that that's her last wish. and you comply with that wish and kill 9 and have 9 dogs that weren't all ready to go at the same time, buried with this lady's ashes in a dog cemetery. That, Mr. Vaughn, is a little kooky to me, sir. And I, Mr. Vaughn, quite frankly, would not sleep well if I turned this dog over to you. So I'm dismissing your lawsuit. Do you understand? You're not getting the dog back, and you're not getting $1,500 back, because anybody that can kill 9 dogs is not playing with a full deck. Goodbye. Thank you.
He was stalking me. He was driving by the kennel. He was threatening to harm me and all of our dogs.
She's got an issue with people that she cannot control.
He had asked me to marry him, and I don't know if this is about rejection or seems suspicious.
Why would I propose to someone married to a man, plus living with another man? Why would I want to get tangled up in something like that?
She was very quick, and she went right to the point, and I'm thrilled, and I'm so happy for this dog.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Williams. Step forward, please.
25-year-old law student Michael Williams is suing his ex-girlfriend, homemaker Elaine Williams, for money owed due to breach of contract. Michael says Elaine promised not to throw him out of the house.
Mr. Williams, you're not related to the defendant, are you?
No, ma'am.
According to what I read, she was a family friend. You rented a room from her. You claim a breach of contract for some nonsense, and then a loan to her in a small amount, $150 or $250. Miss Williams says she never had a contract with you for anything, and she never borrowed any money from you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you known Miss Williams?
June of last year.
What happened last June, Mr. Williams?
I knew she was renting a room, so I went to her house, her apartment in June. We talked. She said she would rent the room out to me. While I was there, I was appreciative that I had the room, because I am a student trying to go to school, and she didn't charge too much for rent. Unfortunately, her feelings for me started to grow, and in the process of her feelings getting in the way, she started getting violent. Her violence was taking over. I couldn't handle the violence anymore, so at the end of that year, which was in December, I left.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me,
yes, no,
smart mouth.
No, ma'am, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to have a smart mouth, and that's...
Well, then I want you to be quiet,
yes,
because when I'm speaking, I'm the only person who speaks.
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael Williams says he had a deal with former live-in girlfriend Elaine Williams. Michael says Elaine agreed to pay him if she wanted him to move out.
Go ahead.
I left, and then about 2 weeks after I left, she called me talking about she missed my company. She wanted me to come back. She wouldn't care who I have over for company, male, female, whatever. She didn't mind. She would reduce my rent, and she would give me about 2 or 3 months free. When I moved back, I made sure everything was clear. I let her know I was going to tape record her, because she lies a lot. I put the tape recorder on the table. I said, Mrs. Williams, you are aware that we are recording. Oh, yes, okay, okay. She agreed to everything.
And that's what's on that tape recording?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I'd like to hear that.
Now, Elaine. Bye now. Dave, what's today's date? Sunday, the 18th. Are you aware that we are recording right now? Yes. Okay. And where we at? We're in the kitchen, right? And the tape recorder's on. Now, are you sure you want me back here? I know I'm here now. My stuff is here. But if you don't want me here, I do not mind packing my stuff and leaving. I will still be your friend. I'm not going to say, well, since you don't want me here, I'm going to press charges. No, I'm not going to press charges because of that. I agreed to drop the charges on Monday. I won't press the charges Monday. I know you're going to do that. Okay, well, I'm right here on tape. It is recording right now. The question I'm asking you is, are you sure you want me to be here, living here at this house with you for at least another 6 months? Yes, I told you yes. It may be false. But you make me repeat myself. Yes, before. But you make me repeat myself. I'm making sure you remember what you told me. You want to taunt me? No, I'm making sure you remember what you told me, and I'm making sure you haven't changed your mind. I would agree to pay you $200 a month for rent, and I will take my 2 months rent for free. That ain't no money. Now you're trying to... No, ma'am, I'm not. Let it be known for the record, I'm not trying to cheat Elaine. Who are you going to put that tape to? It depends on necessary to. Whoever's damn lying. No problem. Okay. I agree. Okay, I agree not to take the 3 months free. I'll take the 2 months.
Sorry for too so long to get to that part, ma'am. But it is on the tape.
I don't care whether it's on the
yes,
tape
I'm just
or
letting you
not.
know that it is on tape, and she did say.
I don't care whether it's. Listen to me
Yes,
very
ma'am.
carefully, Mr. Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't care if it's on the tape or
Yes,
not.
ma'am.
Miss Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
47. My birthday was June the 3rd.
Okay. And how do you support yourself?
Well, right now, I do home care for some people that I know, and I go to Irvin Lee. I'm in computers, mathematics, and English at Irvin Lee.
So they're trying to teach you a trade?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you get any kind of disability, any kind of Social Security?
No, well, just my baby gets some money, and my baby father's sending some money from Cleveland, Ohio.
And when was the last time you were employed on a full-time basis?
Oh, I worked for Afro bail bondsman, but I was living by Southwest Police Department. I was working for him. Everything was going all right till he wanted to turn the job into loving. So, okay, I know you want to hear that, so I left.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
You said that you were going to school?
Yes.
What kind of school do you go to?
I go to El Camino Community College.
And what do you want to be when you grow up?
A lawyer.
And you think that this created a contract?
Yes, ma'am.
It didn't.
In my eyes, it's documented evidence that we agreed
I don't care
upon.
what it is
Okay.
in your eyes. Get glasses.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me explain to you very briefly, sir, what a contract is. Either a contract that is written or a contract that is oral. The first thing that you have to have in a contract is a meeting of the minds. That's the first thing. And if you ever get to law school, your contract professor is going to tell you that you cannot have a valid, binding contract unless two people have a meeting of the minds. And for a variety of sundry reasons, Mr. Williams, you and this lady did not have a meeting of your respective minds.
Oh, yes, ma'am, yes, we did. I'm sorry I didn't get to that point, but yes, we did.
No.
Yes, ma'am, we did.
No, you didn't, sir, because
She
I'm
wanted me
not
back
quite
sober.
sure that each of you had the equipment. I heard nothing on this tape recording that suggests to me that there was ever a meeting of the minds, which is a prerequisite to having a contract.
You didn't get that
because
far.
that's what I heard enough.
No, ma'am, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. You're a hustler.
No, ma'am.
You're a hustler.
Okay.
You're a hustler, and you're taking advantage of her. And if
Hold
you
on,
didn't want,
hold on.
put your hand down. And if you didn't want to move back in with her, then you don't move back in with her. And if you felt as if she was taking advantage of you, then go find someplace else to live.
Ask Ms.
Now,
Williams
you
what I
had a
did for her.
complaint against her, and you said that you were going to notify the district attorney that you weren't going to proceed so she wouldn't have to go to jail. What kind of a complaint did you have against her,
I think
sir?
that might have been either the criminal threats or the assault and battery.
And you were willing to drop those charges against her if she told you you could come back and give you a few months free rent and reduce your rent to $200. Is
No,
that
ma'am, you got it
that's what
wrong.
you told her on
No,
the
ma'am,
machine?
that's not how it was.
Oh, yes, that's exactly
No,
what
ma'am,
you
that's
told
not
her.
how
That
it
was
was.
your voice.
No, it wasn't like that.
That was your voice.
Yes, I
because
said
somebody,
that, but you get
listen
the
to
story mixed
me,
up. Yes, ma'am, no
smart
disrespect.
mouth.
No, ma'am, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to have a smart mouth in that sense.
Well, then I want you to be quiet.
Yes,
because
ma'am.
when I'm speaking, I'm the only person who speaks.
Yes, ma'am.
If somebody complains to the police and to the district attorney that they are in fear of their safety because someone has assaulted them, threatened them, battered them, they don't go back to that house in an attempt to negotiate a lower rent. Do you understand, sir? That doesn't make any sense.
Ma'am, she called me offering
I
me
don't
those
care if
things.
she called you. What difference does it make if she called you? You say, don't call me, I'm afraid of you.
Michael,
and if
I
you
need
call
your
me
help.
again, I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you call me again, I'm going to call the district attorney because I'm the police because I'm afraid of you. You assaulted me. You don't say, well, I'll come back and I'm not afraid of you if you agree to give me a reduction in rent and a couple of months free. Do you understand, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Goodbye. Go get a life. That's all. Case dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Auto mechanic Dwayne Haney is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old homemaker Tanya Parson, for rent money and an unpaid loan. Tanya says Dwayne threw her 6-year-old son into an ice-cold bath.
All rise. Your Honor, case number 97 on the calendar in the matter of Haney versus Parson. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Haney, the defendant, according to you, was a friend of yours. You allowed her to move into your home on a couple of occasions with her children when she was in some financial distress. You claim now that she owes you for a variety of things, some old loan, rent, utilities.
Correct.
Ms. Parsons says there was never an agreement for her to pay you anything. You are angry over two things. You are angry that she rejected your advances. She was not interested in you in a social way, and that bothered you. And second, you are angry because she reported you to the authorities for abusing one of her children. How long do you know her?
I've known her for about 7 years. We dated. A girl I was dating at one time lived in the same neighborhood that she did, same apartment complex. Me and the other girl broke up. Her and I talked. We went our separate ways. We didn't see each other for about 5 years. And one night at a nightclub, run into her. Then we started talking, and next thing you know, we were dating.
And when was that, sir?
And say roughly in the neighborhood about February a year ago.
So why don't you tell me about first the loans and then the arrangement with regard to rent and utilities?
She was calling several times telling me that she had made a mistake, that she felt that she left me to go with this other guy that dumped her in Ohio.
Are you going to tell me about the loan?
Yes. That's where we're going to.
Let's get there.
She called me up needing money. Her kids needed school supplies for school.
When was this, sir?
Last year, before school. Her and her boyfriend agreed they would pay it back as soon as they can.
So how much did you give them at that time?
I gave them $100.
And then tell me about the rest of your lawsuit involving the rent and utilities.
Well, she left with him, went to Ohio. He threw her out. She came back to Charleston.
When?
February 15th. She asked me could she move back in. I said, okay. Are we talking boyfriend, girlfriend, or you want in a room? She said, well, what's the difference? I said, well, I'm not going to charge my girlfriend to live with me, you know? That's kind of stupid. And she said, oh, I see. If I sleep with you, then I don't have to pay. I said, no, it's not like that either. You know, if you're in a relationship, you know, you were helping before. There's no sense in, you know, I'm paying all this and you just lay around and do nothing. And she said, no, I just want the rooms. I said, fine. I rented the U-Haul to go get her stuff from Myrtle Beach, gas. Every time I turn around, she would, can I borrow $20 for this? Can I borrow $10 for that? I need cigarettes. I need gas. I want to rent a movie. There was no sexual advances to her in any way.
When did she move out, sir?
April the 29th, I evicted her.
Why?
Because she wasn't paying me any money.
Did you have a discussion with her?
Yes.
Tell me about the discussion you had with her.
She simply said she didn't have the money. I said, Tanya, you got a job. I helped you get a job.
Well, what kind of work did you get for her, sir?
She was a cashier.
Where?
At Speedway, well, Conoco, whatever they call it now, and they've changed the name.
Did you know how much she was making?
About $100 a week.
And how much of the $100 a week did you expect her to give you, Mr. Haney?
I told her, even if it was $5 a week.
You wanted to see something, $5 a week.
Make an effort.
Okay, so you wanted her to give you $5 a week.
Correct.
Okay, for the 12 weeks that she was living there.
Correct.
Okay, fine.
Now.
And she didn't, so then you threw her out.
No. She had $1,000 coming to her for back child support. She kept telling me, as soon as that gets here, I will pay you up, get you caught up.
Get you caught up with what?
What she owed me.
Well, what did she owe you?
The loans.
So there's only one loan of $100 that was a year before, sir. That's all the loans that I'm hearing
Correct.
about.
But the dollar here, 20.
Sally, I'm not, listen, my parents didn't send me to law school and college and post-law school for 10 years to talk about the dollar here and the $2 there. That's gone. It's in the wind. Do you understand? What
Here's
else?
a list of every time she borrowed money from me, I wrote it down.
Listen.
She knew it.
Listen to me. You think that I believe that list that you just filled out? Do you think, Mr. Haney, that I believe that every time you gave her $5, you went over to a book and filled out $5, Tanya, for cigarettes? You think that I believe that? You think that my father raised an idiot?
No.
Good. Then let us move on, sir. Let us move on, sir.
Okay. I went and had an eviction notice signed on her.
And you say it's because she did not...
Owes me rent.
Rent, because she did not pay you rent.
Did not pay me rent.
Okay, now...
Didn't pay me for fixing her car.
Okay.
Buying the shoes.
All right, Miss Parson, now I would like you to tell me, madam, I want you to tell me about what happened on the 29th of April or immediately preceding the 29th of April.
When he got me this job at Sunoco gas station, he agreed that he volunteered to watch my children for me while I was at work because I work third shift. And my son is 6 years old. He has a bedwetting problem. He called me one morning at work and asked me to bring home a small brown bag to mail off cigarettes to somebody, and in the same conversation told me that he had spanked my son for bedwetting. He had done it 3 times in that night, and he spanked him twice out of the 3 times.
Is that the corporal punishment that you're talking about, the spanking?
He also put him in a tub filled with cold water.
Why do you think that that's an appropriate thing to do, sir?
For one, he didn't wet the bed 1 time that night. Yeah. He did it 3 times.
Do you think that he did it on purpose, sir?
I don't know. Just like I told him...
Just a second. If you don't know why he wet the bed, that means that you don't know whether he suffered from some sort of a psychiatric disability or a physical disability. You had no idea.
No, but at the same time, the first time he wet the bed, nothing was done. Because he got up in the middle of the night, changed his own clothes, got back in bed, and urinated again.
What does that tell you, Mr. Genius? What does that tell you, Mr. Genius? Did that tell you that the 6-year-old was maybe perhaps embarrassed?
Well, you know...
Well, what?
We have gone... him and I have talked about it. Logan, what's wrong? You know, is there something wrong? No, I'm just lazy. Because he has heard...
I want to ask you a question. Did you get your degree in psychology from an accredited university?
No, I did not.
Did you take any parenting classes before you decided that this was an appropriate way to treat a 6-year-old bedwetter?
No.
Do you have any children of your own?
Oh, yeah.
How many?
I have 2.
How many did you raise?
My daughter comes with me every weekend.
How many did you raise?
None.
Mr. Haney, it is inappropriate for you to physically discipline anyone else's children in the first place. In the second place, until you understand what all the problems might be with a child that causes them to bedwet, the very idea that you would resort to physical punishment suggests to me that you're missing one of the cans of a 6-pack. Do you understand me, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Now, did you report this to any authority?
The cops were called out. I called the cops out to the house. And
when?
Probably about a week or so later.
Why?
Because of the disagreement me and him were having.
Disagreement about what?
He was threatening to kick me out.
Let me explain something to you, Miss Parsons. I believe you probably understand that Mr. Haney had some feeling for you. Correct? Right?
Before I moved in, it was understood.
That's not what I asked you. You're a young, attractive girl, and he's an older fool. And I believe that you needed him. You used him.
No,
of course you did. You used him.
I did not use him.
Of course you did.
Everything was on the table before I even moved in.
But he wasn't using you. He let you move into his house. You weren't paying rent. He was babysitting for your children. How do you say that I wasn't using him? You were. You were using him, and you were using him because, Miss Parson, you understood that he had feelings for you. That's why it was very important to you to have your agreement with him before you moved in that this is strictly platonic.
No, Your Honor.
Oh, Miss Parson. Oh, yes, my dear.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today...
You stayed on the property?
Yes, ma'am.
Alone?
Yes, ma'am.
The gentleman sitting next to her over there was the one that was moving in.
He never lived there, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dwayne Haney says his ex-girlfriend Tanya Parson owes for rent and a loan. Tanya says Dwayne threw her 6-year-old son into a cold bath after he wet the bed.
Listen, you chose him because he's better than a shelter. Give you a room, he's going to babysit for your kids, you got food, you got everything that you need, and the reason he did it was because he had feelings for you. Isn't that right, Mr. Haney? Look at my face.
Yes.
Isn't that right, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you met her 5 years ago, were you attracted to her?
Yeah.
And at that time, you were 39 and she was 20.
Correct.
Is that right?
That's about right.
That's not a good match, Mr. Haney.
I understand that, but...
So you know what happens when an old guy wants to go out with a young girl? Costs some money.
Well...
And in your case, you know how much it cost you? $160. It's a bargain. It's a cheap lesson, Mr. Haney. Truth of the matter is, you were looking for something more. Mr. Haney, look here, sir. You were looking for something more. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. That doesn't let you come to court like a crybaby and say, now I want all the money for cigarettes and gas I gave her over the 3 months that she lived with me, and this $100 I gave her for school supplies a year ago, because I guarantee you this, Mr. Haney. Had Miss Parson decided to come across and move into your room, you would have forgiven the $100 loan and all the $5 cigarettes and gas. But the fact that she rejected you, and the fact that she ultimately decided, well, I'm going to even make it a little bit more difficult for him. He spanked my kid, and he shouldn't have done that, which, by the way, you shouldn't have done. That doesn't make a lawsuit. That makes a bad relationship. So, Mr. Haney, this relationship didn't cost you a fortune, sir. It cost you a couple $100 and a good lesson. Find somebody age appropriate. Your lawsuit's dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It wasn't what the way the judge put it out to be, that I just wanted to sleep with the girl. No, I didn't.
It was agreed upon when I moved in there that it was going to be strictly platonic.
I felt sorry for her because of her kids. I gave her a place to stay. She agreed to pay me the $200 a month.
Once I got in there and he was asking me where was I going, who was I with, why was I with this person, why was I doing what I was doing, and I told him that that was none of his business. It continued to go downhill.
The judge ruled, that's it, in the case.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Collins versus Collins. Step forward, please.
Store manager Angela Collins is suing her ex-husband, construction worker Jack Collins, for his share of foreclosure fees. Jack says it was Angela's fault the trailer was repossessed.
Miss Collins, this is your former husband.
Yes, ma'am.
You claim that he owes you $750 because you were forced to pay certain assessments on a home that you jointly owned before the divorce.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you were forced to settle with the whatever company recently. You had no knowledge prior to the divorce that this was going to be a problem, and you feel as if it's only fair for him to pay his fair share.
Yes, ma'am.
And he says it was your house, deal with it. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
When were you married?
In 98.
1998. And when were you divorced?
2002.
And when did you separate?
Probably about 2000.
Who lived in the home?
Me and him, and our 2 children.
How old are your children?
They're 11 and 12.
See from the papers that the children don't live with either one of you, is that right?
You're right. They live with my mother.
Why?
She adopted them.
Why?
Because she couldn't handle them. She didn't want me to have them, and she didn't want them, so that's why she...
Stop tapping.
...tried to sign. She wanted to sign adoption, wanted me, pretty much forced me into signing adoption papers over to her mother for financial reasons, you know, and it just didn't make no sense. She didn't want me to have custody of children, but she didn't want custody of children, and they didn't want me to see them. I still don't see my children.
Then that's what happens when you sign away your legal rights to the children. Okay, so you separated in 98, and you stayed in the property.
Yeah.
Is that right?
From February to May.
Alone?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
The gentleman sitting next to her over there was the one that was moving in.
He never lived there, Your Honor.
That's my second cousin, Your Honor.
When I started seeing him and his mama kept coming there and they wouldn't leave, and that's the reason I ended up moving out. We was just dating, Your Honor.
You say he was in and out of jail for burglary and drug use. I stayed in our manufactured home that was on his parents' property and continued on my life with a new spouse.
No, we was not married. We're still not married. We was just seeing each other, and he never lived there.
Did he stay there?
No, ma'am.
Did he come to visit?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he stay over occasionally?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course he did. All right. So, did you pay the mortgage during the whole time you were living there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happened in May?
Him and his mother kept coming over, and they kept kicking in the front door, and then he got real, he got upset because I was seeing him, and they kept showing their butt, and he tried to run me off the road, and they kept kicking in the front door, so I just moved out.
Why didn't you take the trailer with you?
I didn't have nowhere to take it to.
So you just left it?
Yeah.
When he left, did he say to you, this is your problem, this is your trailer?
No, actually, he said him and his father was going to move into the trailer and keep the trailer.
Well, what happened to the trailer? It got repossessed?
Got repossessed with half my stuff in it, Your Honor.
Did you pay them this $1,500?
Yes, ma'am.
Let
Here's
me
the
see.
receipt right here.
Okay. I'll hear you, Mr. Collins. Why shouldn't you be charged for half of this?
Your Honor, I told her whenever I left there, I had went and bought another car. I loaded all my stuff up in a small car. And I told her, I said, as long as you have my children, you can stay on this property as long as you want. And I'll help you pay the note on the trailer as long as my kids are living there. But whenever he moves in, y'all all need to move out. You understand what I mean? I'm not going to sit there and support him and her. So when she decided that I wasn't going to be that dummy and support him and her, then she just left.
How old are you?
30.
You're a big boy. If you buy something from a bank and you take out a mortgage, what you do when you divorce is you make sure that when you get a divorce, all the loose ends are wrapped up. They moved out. They left the trailer on your mother's property. What happened to it?
The repossession, they were supposed to pay us storage fee for even having the trailer.
What happened to the trailer?
They come repossessed it.
When?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
I moved.
I don't know. I don't know what my name is after this case. Listen to me. You owe her half the money. I mean, certainly when they've written off $10,000 worth of mortgage fees, neither one of you are going to get star credit ratings, but at least you're not going to have judgments against you, and at least under these circumstances, you're not going to have your income tax return if you have any refund taken, or they're not going to come and detach your driver's license. They can't take your children because you've already given them away. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $750. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
25-year-old customer service rep Andrea Hughes is suing her former landlord, retired police officer James Farrar, for an assault. James is countersuing, claiming Andrea assaulted him.
All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Yeah, this is case number 143 on the calendar in the matter of Hughes versus Farrar. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Miss Hughes, you were a tenant in an apartment complex that was managed by the defendant.
Correct.
And it is your claim that he assaulted you.
Yes.
Mr. Farrar says that you was served with an eviction notice, and you, in fact, assaulted him and one of his employees. He is counterclaiming. How long had you been living in this complex?
I lived in that complex for approximately 2 years and about 4 months.
And who did you live with?
A roommate of mine.
When did Mr. Farrar come to work at the complex?
December 19th of 03. And the incident with Mr. Farrar and me happened on January 23rd of 04.
So describe the incident, please.
I was walking out of my apartment on January 23rd, and Mr. Farrar, I noticed that a balled up piece of paper hit me in the back. I turned around, and I seen him, along with one of his witnesses over there.
Which one?
Mrs. Farrar. Now, they said they're separated.
Who was Mrs. Farrar?
That's the first one there.
Okay.
Okay, and I turned around, and I said, "Did you throw that paper at me? You're so childish." And he followed me into the underground parking lot, antagonizing me, just courting me, saying a lot of different things to me. I can't wait till you get out of here. You know, he started to say, I have a recorder in my pocket. I'm going to try to get you arrested, you know. So I kind of rushed and got in my car. I was very afraid of this man. I couldn't even leave anywhere. I was so distraught. I went back into my house once I knew they were out of the underground parking lot.
So you were sitting in your car, and then you decided not to go out anymore, and you went back up to your apartment.
Yes, to go tell my roommate what happened.
Go ahead.
I went to go walk my dog a lady out of the office came out and said, are you supposed to be walking your dog up front? What are you doing up here? And 5 minutes later, out of nowhere, this gentleman came and placed me into this chokehold.
You mean he just came out of nowhere?
He came out of nowhere. I did not see him coming. That's the whole thing about it. I didn't have an opportunity to even touch him with my pinky if I wanted to.
Okay, so he came up from behind you.
He came up from, yes, from the
came up from behind you and placed you in a chokehold.
Yes.
And what happened next?
Ma'am, he had me so tight. I was in and out of consciousness. I remember being slammed onto the floor. I remember that woman right there, Mrs. Farrar, kicking my keys, kicking my shoes, because my shoes fell off. And he's screaming penal codes, telling her to go call the police. She needs to get arrested for this or that and the other. And
what kind of documentation do you have, Miss Hughes?
I have the pictures with my assault bruises that I had. I have my, I went to the emergency room and I have,
I'd like to see everything that you have.
Okay.
Gotcha. Now, you are not still living at the complex, is that right?
Not.
When did you move?
3 days after that incident on 123.
Had you been previously served with an eviction notice?
Yes.
When?
November, the beginning of November.
November of 2003.
Yes.
Prior to him beginning employment there, you were served with an eviction notice for what?
Payment due.
You had not paid rent?
Correct.
How long had you not paid rent?
It was 2 months, actually.
Any reason why you didn't pay rent?
Well, my roommate could not come up with her half. Her mother just died. She was going through a lot of financial problems, and I could not fork her half of the rent.
So you didn't pay anything?
No, they would not accept any partial payments, ma'am.
Well, you could have paid if in October you didn't pay your half. In November, you could have paid your half of November and your half of October. That would have been a whole month.
Yeah, that's true.
So you decided if your roommate couldn't pay anything, you weren't going to pay anything either. Is that right?
Basically.
Basically. Okay. All right, Mr. Farrar, let me hear your version of these events, sir.
Well, she's right. We did go down into the garage, and I was with Norma.
Who's Norma?
Norma's my former wife and now an employee. We were married 20 years ago. And I already had an altercation with her about a week before that.
What kind of an altercation?
About 8 policemen were coming out of her apartment, and I went over to the apartment to find out what had happened. And she lit a cigarette. She said, "It's none of your business," and threw it in my face. And then her roommate pulled her back in and shut the door.
Don't speak. Don't
pulled
speak.
her back in and shut the door. So I checked with some of the fellows in the police department to find out what had been going on in that apartment, and I found out that there was a numerous calls there, something like 41 calls in 2 years.
You have the
Yes,
log
I
of
do.
those calls?
I do. I have
What were the
some.
calls for, Miss Hughes?
Oh, I'd like to see him myself, ma'am.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him myself the day that he's talking about.
No, I'm
the day
not
the police
talking
did
about...
come.
And
My
there's her,
8-year-old daughter
there's her
called the police
Listen
by
to me,
accident.
Miss Hughes. I didn't
but
ask you...
I like a log of the 41 calls.
I didn't ask you about the day. I said I'm just asking you whether...
One of them involved weapons.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and bit you in the behind. You're not going to take advantage of the judicial system by seeking redress in the court for something that your bad behavior started.
And later today,
What is it that you did to your son when you found out that he stole this phone?
I whooped him.
Did you ever steal anything before?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Car.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Hughes claims she was assaulted by her former landlord, James Farrar. James says Andrea is looking for a free ride.
There are a lot of calls here to your apartment, madam.
You know, I personally have seen the police at my house twice.
Good. Okay, that's all. Would you please tell me what happened on January 23rd, 04, sir? You and your wife followed her down to the garage for any particular ex-wife, for any particular reason?
Yeah, I was going down there to look at some work being done on the elevators. We had the elevators remodeled. They were in bad shape. And her car was to the right. I was going to the left. She got in the car, and she opened the trunk, or she got to the trunk area, opened the trunk, and started throwing stuff out into the garage area. And then, of course, there was a lot of bad, blistering language going on at the time in reference to my previous marriage with Norma. She got in her car and peeled out, went out the gate. That's the last I saw of her. So I finished checking on the work, went back up to the office area.
Listen to me. I don't want you to say anything.
Wow.
I went back over to the other garage where the manager at that time, Stellar On, was. We're waiting for her to come. So Stellar pulls in, maybe 10 minutes after she left, not even that. So we left, went back to the office area, and there she was with the dog. And the dog was urinating on the planter at the time. She was smoking a cigarette and had the door open. That day, she had a TRO dropped by Stellar On.
Who's Stellar On?
She was the existing manager at the time.
So the existing manager of the building had a restraining order against Miss Hughes?
Yes.
May I see a copy of it, please?
I don't have it because they dropped it because she couldn't articulate.
They dropped it twice.
But I do have 2 restraining orders on tenants
They dropped
at the building.
it twice.
Yeah, see them, please.
Sure. These are people she assaulted during her tenancy there. These are still enforced, by the way. 2 of my witnesses that couldn't make it today.
I have temporary restraining orders issued. You were the defendant, Miss Hughes. The protected persons are somebody by the name of Sean and Adam.
We had parking issues there in the underground parking.
Okay. Shh. I just asked you.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Farrar.
Anyways, I came back, and she was talking to Stellar at the time at first, and Stellar told her to put her dog on a leash. And she said, with a cigarette right at Stellar, I don't have to do any damn thing I don't want to do. And I'm going to leave out the profanity as best I can. But it would have blistered the doggone walls of this room. It's that bad. So I asked her, please leave the area, go to your apartment. We had mothers and children.
Whatever.
Coming.
You told her to
Okay.
get. You told her to get out, and I wouldn't.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I told her to
get
go
out.
back to her apartment and get out of there. So
Go ahead.
3 or 4
Keep going.
times. Finally, she said she wasn't going to leave, and I placed her under citizen's arrest for 415 PC, which is disturbance of peace.
Okay.
I told Stellar to call the Torrance Police Department and have them roll.
And?
At that point, I'm standing here, she's standing there, the office corner is here, Norma's here, and Stellar's looking around the corner. She tried to step around me going towards the direction of the 2 managers. I did what I instinctively been trained to do. I stood in her way. And when I did, her body went into me.
They didn't train you to put a chokehold on someone,
Hughes,
sir, and
Miss
take them to
Hughes,
the ground.
Miss Hughes.
That's not what the police department
Miss
trains
Hughes.
you to do.
Do you see how quiet he was when you were speaking?
He was thinking of his lies very good.
Madam, you wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face. You got a bad temper, Miss Hughes. Everybody who has contact with you seems to have a problem with you, and you have no problem with anybody. You had no problem with the prior building managers. You have no problem with the tenants.
I know I had
No,
never
you have
had
any
any
problem. And you had no problem paying your rent, and you had no problem living like a good tenant. You had no problem at all.
Me paying my rent doesn't have anything to do with me physically getting harmed, ma'am.
Oh, yes, it does, madam. Yes, it does. There's a certain entitlement that one thinks that one has when you believe that you can take property, take things that don't belong to you without payment, like a place to live, and say, sue me. Go ahead. It's going to take you 3-4 months to get me out of this apartment. Meanwhile, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to make a big, fat pain in the for myself, which is exactly what you did. Exactly. Because when you were telling me your side of the story, I was listening. I was perfectly prepared to listen to you and to say maybe this man overextended, maybe this man who was a former police officer or a peace officer got a little carried away with himself. But I was watching you testify, and you wouldn't know the truth if it came up and bit you in the behind. And I want to tell you something. You're not going to take advantage of the judicial system by seeking redress in the court for something that your bad behavior started. So your lawsuit's dismissed. Now, I'm going to get to your counterclaim. But for the fact that she filed this lawsuit, would you be here today?
No.
Good. So let's say goodbye to each other. She's no longer a tenant, is that right?
That's
Goodbye,
right.
your case is dismissed and your counterclaim is withdrawn. Thank you very much.
That's so great in your lives. You are so great. I was a very good tenant. He was the one that just came aboard. I had been there for 2.5 years. If I wasn't a good tenant, I wouldn't have been there that long.
She actually had most of the building in fear, and this is a 90-unit building.
There's no criminal charges against anyone that lived in that household. Rather, there was 100 of 911 phone calls.
She's being sentenced tomorrow morning for a felony, domestic violence, where she took a knife to her roommate.
That man assaulted me, and he knows he assaulted me. He knows he snuck up on me and assaulted me for no reason at all.
It's just a pity that a young woman her age can't control her rage and her anger, that tries to intimidate her way through life, and this is what she's been doing. And Judge Judy saw right through it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Thomas versus Green. Step forward.
Account manager Lizette Thomas is suing her nephew's uncle, customer service rep Antonio Green Sr., for a $1,700 cell phone bill. Lizette says Antonio's son stole her nephew's phone and gave it to a girl.
Now I'd like these two young men to come and stand next to their respective parents, guardians. This is your nephew.
Correct.
And you gave him a cell phone.
Yes.
So that he could be in touch with you for emergencies.
Yes.
He lost it.
Correct.
And somehow Mr. Green's son found it. And according to you, Mr. Green's son gave it away.
Yes.
And whoever he gave it away to had a very big mouth. And you got a phone bill for how much?
$1,700.
$1,700. So you want Mr. Green to be responsible for that?
Yes.
Mr. Green says, I didn't use the cell phone. My son didn't use the cell phone. Why should he be responsible?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
When did your aunt give you the cell phone?
Late July.
And why did she give you the cell phone?
For emergencies.
How long did you have it?
About a month.
Until late August?
Yes.
And what happened to it?
I gave it to my coach. We went to a game, and I asked him to hold it, and I left it with him, and we all left.
So what did you do?
I called him and asked him, did he have it? He said yes. I asked him, could he hold it for me? He said yes.
When did you go and get it from him?
I didn't.
Oh, why not?
Because I thought if I told my parents, they were going to think I was irresponsible.
That doesn't make sense, what you just said to me. Could you get there by bus?
Yes.
So why didn't you run right over and get it?
I wasn't thinking that time.
Right. You weren't thinking. Now, what's your first name?
Antonio.
Antonio, how did you get this phone?
I found it in the coach bag, and I gave it to this girl trying to impress her.
Just, okay. Don't go through. We have to do this slowly because I have to get things step by step. You found it in the coach's bag when?
Around late August, around the 28th, during the 1st of September.
When you say you found it in the coach's bag, what were you doing in the coach's bag?
Just going in it, sneaking around.
So you stole the phone out of the bag?
Right.
And what did you do with it when you stole the phone out of the bag?
I gave it to this girl. At that time, it was my girlfriend.
And what did you say to her?
I gave her the phone, told her she could use it.
So, Mr. Green.
Yes, ma'am.
See, this is something he didn't put in his answer, that he stole the phone.
Well, yes, I knew that he retrieved the phone.
Not retrieved.
Well, stole the phone around November when I got the call from Miss Thomas.
Stole it.
Right.
So what is it that you did to your son when you found out that he stole this phone?
Can I say on air?
Yes.
I whooped him.
How old are you, Antonio?
16.
You go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you do in school?
Good.
Did you ever steal anything before?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
Cars.
How many?
2 of them.
And when you went to court, did your father go with you?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have, Mr. Thomas?
2, ma'am.
How old are they?
He's 16 and my daughter's 15.
She give you any trouble?
No.
So what are you doing about Mr. Trouble?
Well, right now he's in rehabilitation programs in the city, doing counseling session, peer mentoring programs appointed by the court, urine drops and things like that.
He had a drug problem?
Yes, they said he did.
If they said he did, he probably did.
Of course, he denied that, but they said he did.
Well, he's right out here telling me everything that he did. That's a good thing, because he probably knows that I know anyway.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you better get pretty busy, because you owe this lady $1,700.
Yes, ma'am.
You stole the phone, you gave it to somebody, and you lied to them and said, I got you this phone, you can use it. They used it, as you told him to. I mean, the fact that you couldn't get your behind out of your room to get on a bus and go pick up the phone doesn't make you a prince. Do you understand that?
Yes.
But, I mean, it's your stupidity, but he did it on purpose. He stole it. And then he gave it away, and he said, I bought your present, use it. And you shouldn't have to suffer for that. Mr. Green shouldn't have to suffer for that either. What Mr. Green has to do is he has to harness this boy and send him out there to collect cans. 5 cents a piece, if that's all he can do. Because somehow you got to impress upon him that when he does something wrong, the whole world can't suffer. He's got to suffer.
Right.
You have to suffer. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
19-year-old student Ashley Weiss is suing her ex-fiancé, 20-year-old parking attendant David Sellers, for a cell phone bill. David says he let Ashley keep the engagement ring.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 18 on the calendar in the matter of Weiss versus Sellers. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
Miss Weiss, you and Mr. Sellers were engaged to be married. You are no longer engaged. You are no longer involved. You claim he owes you some money.
Yes.
Mr. Sellers says he owes you absolutely nothing. And if you think he owes you some money, sell the engagement ring. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. When did you become engaged?
In December of 2004.
Just in my own curiosity, when did you buy her the ring?
In December.
What kind of a ring did you buy her?
Engagement ring.
Cheap one.
Well, let me see it.
You want to see
You're
it?
wearing it. I wouldn't.
Little ring.
What?
Can I have a tissue, please?
Why, who's chewing gum? Both of them?
You gonna give me a piece of tissue or what? Thank you. You got gum? No. Cool. All right. Here you are.
Thank you. Oh, that's a very sweet ring. Tell me about when he gave you the ring.
He proposed to me on Christmas and asked me to marry him. He just said, will you marry me? And just gave me the ring.
He handed you the box?
Yes.
When you opened it up, were you excited? Is not an answer.
No, I was not. I was hesitant and felt uncomfortable since he did it in front of his family. And I felt like I didn't have a choice of whether to say. Felt pressured to marry him.
Well, did you wear the ring on New Year's Eve?
I did.
Were you still with his family?
Yes.
Did you wear the ring until you broke up?
I took it off once I got home.
When did you get home?
I think it was January 4th.
When did you break up?
A couple weeks after. He wanted me to move with him to Oklahoma, drop out of school, and start a family with him, and work part-time for the rest of my life. And I decided that wasn't
That wouldn't have been very smart.
Yeah.
Mr. Sellers, for her to do that. How much did you pay for this ring?
$750.
You know he's entitled to the ring back, don't you?
Yes. He told me, I asked him, and he said I could keep it. But I think it's only fair if I give him his ring back, I get my money that he owes me.
Well, is that right?
Yes.
Hey! Look at this happy ending.
I know.
Well, so that would be wonderful, right?
would,
You wouldn't
yeah.
mind if you got back the ring and let's say you could sell it. She's claiming a loan, $300 loan because you went to Oklahoma. Is that where you live?
Yes.
It's her claim that this was a loan that she gave you to go to Oklahoma so that you could buy clothes and traveling expenses and that sort of thing. And you said, well, you went together. You both spent money.
Yes.
Is that right?
No.
He didn't spend any money?
No, he got kicked out of the Navy, so therefore he had no money because he was broke.
Well, where did he get the money for the ring?
That's from his old checks, like his previous checks, and he stopped getting paid once he got kicked out.
When did you get kicked out of the Navy?
December of 04.
How come?
Drug use.
Went AWOL.
Didn't like the Navy anymore?
Dishonorable.
Okay. Would you kindly give him back the ring? Now you have the ring. And you can sell it, right?
Yes.
Now, telephone.
Yes.
Let me hear about the telephone.
He didn't have any money. He said he needed a phone. I bought him a brand new phone. He said, I promise I will pay you back. I will pay for the bills once I get my feet on the ground and start getting a job in Oklahoma.
Did you get your feet on the ground?
Kind of.
What do you mean, kind of?
I had a part-time job.
So he never got his act together.
He did actually pay the bills for the first couple of months, but then stopped paying them.
And he canceled the service.
Yes, he changed, which also added a deactivation fee because he had to switch. He switched
the telephone company.
How old are you, Miss Weiss?
19.
Who was this gentleman?
This is my father, and that's my classmate, Lorenzo.
I want you to consider yourself very, very fortunate. Because, you know, you could have actually moved to Oklahoma.
I
know. Working part-time, raising a whole mess of kids, no education. Got to look up and say, thank you, God. You were watching over me. All it cost you was a couple of $100.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you pay your own phone bill?
For a couple months.
What happened?
Well,
Well is not an answer, Mr. Sellers.
I lost my job and I couldn't pay for it, and I tried to pay half of it because it was up to $300, and I paid $150 of it. So I just never got around to pay the rest of it.
Well, you think that that's right, or you agreed to pay for it? Hmm?
It's not right.
Now you got the ring. You're going to sell the ring. How much do you owe her for the phone bill that you didn't pay?
I'm not really sure how much exactly.
Well, she's going to tell me. What?
Over $500.
Really? Let me see.
I don't have the bills. I know.
Listen to me, my dear.
Yes.
You filed a complaint in which you say that you loaned him $300 that he used for these travel necessities, which I'm discounting.
Okay.
Put your hand down, sir. You can't help her. She's
Sorry,
got
Your
into
Honor.
this mess by herself. She's got to get out of it by herself. Maybe she'll learn a good lesson if she gets out of it by herself. So, you have to get the bills. You don't have the bills. How am I supposed to know? He doesn't know what the phone bill is, and you don't know what the phone bill is. That's the first thing that you know. You come to court, and you're supposed to have evidence. If you don't have evidence, I can't help you. Now, you changed phone carriers.
Yes.
Do you know that there's a penalty for that?
No, I did not know that.
He knew.
What was the fee for disconnecting the service?
$175.
Does that sound about right, Bird?
Sounds about right to me.
And I assume, again, you do not have any proof of that. What did you come here with other than your smile?
I don't know.
I don't understand. I really don't understand, Miss Weiss. You want to say something, sir? You're dying to say something, so stand up. I mean, you are the responsible person. You're the person who's been through life, who has certain life experiences. You know when you come to court, you come with?
Evidence, Your Honor.
So?
We attempted to get a copy of the phone bill because of the other party lived in Oklahoma. The phone bill came to Oklahoma and never came to our house in San Diego. There was a $405 balance on the phone and a $175 cancellation fee that Verizon's coming after us for. And we feel that the other party should pay for the phone because he used it.
I absolutely agree with you,
But
sir.
we don't have evidence.
It's the evidence. Now, how much do you believe you owe her on the telephone bill? I'm trying to be as fair to you, Miss Weiss, as I can. You're young, not too swift. How much do you think you owe, Mr. Sellers?
All of it.
How much?
600 and however much.
She didn't say it was $600, Mr. Sellers. I mean, it's absolutely impossible for me to fly blind. You said the phone bill was $500. He said, I owe all of it $600. I mean, it's stupid. It just changed. Take the ring out of your pocket. Then you put it in the other pocket. Dig deeper. Bird, would you give her back the ring, please? Just changed my mind. Now, Miss Weiss, this is what you're going to do. He got taken when he spent $700 for that ring, but there's no question in my mind that you could probably sell it for $3. So sell the ring. I'm going to give you $250 in addition to the ring to help defray the cost of this phone bill. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is that fair, sir?
Yes.
Perfect. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's broke, no education, no job. Basically, what was there good about it?
We really don't talk to each other anymore.
He's stupid.
She agreed to it. It was her idea, too.
Don't be nice and don't help out someone when they're not going to help you out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Whitmer versus Griffin. Step forward, please.
28-year-old hairdresser Lori Whitmer is suing her ex-boyfriend, ambulance builder Dewan Griffin, for loans to pay his court fines and to reinstate his driver's license.
Miss Whitmer, it is your claim that Mr. Griffin owes you some money for court-related matters.
That is correct.
Mr. Griffin says that everything that you ever gave him, they were gifts.
Gifts.
Gave him, and there were no loans. There was never any intention to repay you, nor an agreement to repay you. When did you meet him?
December 2003 through some friends of mine at a party that we were having.
And when did you make the first loan?
Well, we were seeing each other up until September of 2004. We were still talking, you know, on an on-off basis, and then I got a call.
So you were casually seeing each other? You never lived together? There was never any discussion of marriage? It was just a casual relationship?
Yes.
Okay. September 2004.
I had gotten a call. He was locked up in jail.
For what?
For driving without a license.
You were locked up for driving without a license, Mr. Griffin?
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you locked up?
5 months.
Shh. Please. Mr. Griffin, that's impossible, sir.
It's not impossible. That's why I was there.
Well, why don't you tell me the story of how you got locked up for 5 months for driving without a license?
Well, I had warrants for tickets that I hadn't paid.
Ah, now we're getting somewhere. So you had outstanding warrants for what kinds of tickets?
Driving without a license.
How many, please? I don't want to have to say it again. Don't make my job any more difficult. How many times were you stopped for driving without a license, Mr. Griffin?
Maybe 3, 4.
You don't learn?
Yeah, I do learn. I have a driver's license now since I got out.
Well, how old were you the first time you got stopped for driving without a license?
19.
And why didn't you have a license?
Because they were suspended.
What was the reason your license was suspended?
Because I had a speeding ticket that I didn't pay.
All right. You see how we're going to get to this? You see how we're understanding each other now, Mr. Griffin? So you didn't spend 5 months in jail because you were stopped for driving with a suspended license, because they don't do that in this country. They do it, sir, if you get caught 5, 6, 7 times driving without a license, and you've got outstanding warrants for speeding tickets which you didn't pay, and outstanding warrants for the other driving while suspended that you didn't respond to, then eventually the criminal justice system has it up to here with you. And that's what happened, right?
Right.
Good. So you were an habitual person who flaunted the criminal justice system by not showing up, by not paying your fines, and by continuing to drive without a license.
I wasn't habitual.
Habitual means that you do it all the time, sir, and habitual is what you were.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why didn't you ask the mother of your children for the money?
Because she has my 2 sons. She needs whatever she already has.
Well, who does she take care of?
She was taking care of me.
Why would she want to take care of you, Mr. Griffin?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laurie Whitmer says ex-boyfriend DeJuan Griffin owes for loans to pay court fines after his 6th arrest for driving on a suspended license.
Now, how much did you put up for him to get out of jail?
$947.
That was bail?
No, he was in a work release base, so they were taking money out weekly towards those fines, and then this was towards like a one lump sum so that he can get his license back and to get out sooner.
Okay, now I want you to think back when you went to court, because you were picked up on warrants periodically, is that right?
I have been before.
And you remember going before the judge?
Yes.
And you remember telling the judge that you were going to come back to court, you weren't going to warrant anymore, right?
Yeah.
And you remember telling the judge that you wouldn't drive anymore with a suspended license?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How many times did you tell that to judges when they picked you up?
Like I said, I've been there 3 or 4 times.
So each time you told that to the judge that you were going to report to court, and that was a lie, because you didn't, because you had warrants, right?
Right.
And you said that you would not drive with a suspended license. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you continued to drive with a suspended license, right?
Yep.
So you lied to the judge.
Yeah.
And when you lied to the judge, Mr. Griffin, you had previously raised your right hand and sworn to tell the truth. Is that right?
Right.
But you didn't tell the truth, right?
It wasn't intentional, but that's the way it worked out.
You mean somebody drugged you and put you behind the wheel of a car, Mr. Griffin?
No.
You mean at the time that you made the statements to the court, you intended to keep your promise?
Yes.
But some little men that play in your head, you know, they forced you to get behind the wheel of a car and break your promise.
I had to go to work. I had no other way to get there. I have kids to take care of.
You have children to take care of. Do you live with your children?
No.
How many children do you have?
2,
How old are they?
6, and 7.
And you pay child support, sir?
Yep.
How much child support do you pay?
$77 a week.
They take it out of your salary?
Yep.
When you were in jail for 5 months on work release, how much did they take out of your salary for child support?
They didn't, but
Right. So for 5 months, your kids sort of went on hiatus.
No. I was out every day. I paid myself. I gave money to my children's mom.
How much did you give her?
Probably $2,000, $3,000.
You believe that?
I don't know.
Mr. Griffin, there is no question that Miss Whitmer bailed you out so that you could get out. And then she gave you some more money. How much more money did she give you, Mr. Griffin?
$600 maybe.
How much?
$390.
And what was that for, Miss Whitmer?
To help him reinstate his license.
And how did that come about that he needed another $390?
March 3rd, he came to my job. He was dropped off, and he asked me if I would drive him to go to this insurance company to reinstate it.
What did you go to her for?
She offered to pay it for me.
When had you called her to tell her you were coming, and could she make a gift to you of this $390? When had you called her?
She'd known for months that
Don't tell me what she knew. I asked you when you called her, because you wouldn't have gone there, sir.
That morning.
Did he call you that morning?
I believe so that morning, but I didn't know he was coming to my job.
What did he say when he called you in the morning?
That he was wanting to go take his test and just the appointment times and stuff like that, but he didn't say he was being dropped off to go and reinstate it.
He didn't say anything about money?
Not that I recall, no.
When you got there, Mr. Griffin, to her job, she drove you to pay this money?
Yeah, but to say that I just came there and out of the blue sprung up, I need some money when we're at the insurance company, that's not the way it happened.
Well, tell me how it happened, Mr. Griffin.
She knew I didn't have all the money. I called her and told her.
What did you call her and tell her for?
Because she was willing to help me pay it.
No. Why did you call her and tell her?
Because I needed more money.
Why didn't you get another job?
Why didn't I get another job?
That was my question.
I didn't need another job.
You did need another job if you didn't have more money.
I didn't need another job because she was willing to pay for it.
Why didn't you ask the mother of your children for the money? She's closer to you. You made 2 babies with her.
Because she has my 2 sons, she needs whatever that she already has.
Well, who does she take care of?
She was taking care of me.
Why would she want to take care of you, Mr. Griffin?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Who do you live with?
I take care of my 2 sons and a sick mom of mine.
Just a second. You have 2 children?
2 boys.
How old are they?
5 and 2.
Mr. Griffin, are you a lowlife?
No way.
Yes, you are. Mr. Griffin.
Yes.
Let me tell you why you're a lowlife. Because you just said to me, Mr. Griffin, the mother of my 2 children needs all the money that she can get because she takes care of my 2 children.
What's wrong
So
with
that's
that?
why I'm not calling her. Why do you think, sir, that this young lady who has 2 children needs money any less than the mother of your 2 children?
Because she was always willing to give it to me.
You're a lowlife.
I'm not.
You are.
I'm not.
And a taker. And I don't see what she sees in you, sir. Certainly it's very well hidden to me. But you owe her $1,337 because she bailed you out. Next time, if you need money, Mr. Griffin, get another job. You're supposed to do the right thing, and you're not supposed to take advantage of people. Do I make myself clear, sir?
Sure.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Plaintiff Debbie Neville is suing her ex-daughter-in-law, 29-year-old Sarah Hubel, for defamation of character, slander, and lost wages.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 112 on the calendar in the matter of Neville versus Hubel. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Neville, Miss Hubel?
Yes.
Is your former daughter-in-law?
Correct.
She and your son have been divorced for 5 years? How many children do you have?
Just 1.
How old is that child?
He's 9.
All right, now, Miss Neville, I have a few questions for you. While Miss Hubel was married to your son, did you get along?
Yeah.
Did she come over to your house for dinner?
Well, actually, they lived with me till he was like almost 2.
So she lived with you?
Correct.
Must have gotten along.
Yes, we did.
And when they moved out into their own place, did they still come back with your grandson?
Correct. I babysat him when they worked, whenever they went out.
But then the marriage went south.
Correct.
And it is your claim that your former daughter-in-law has embarked upon a campaign of harassment, slander, defamation of your character that has gone on for a very long time. You want her to pay for that. Ms. Hubel says quite the contrary. When she was in the midst of a custody battle with your son, you called Child Protective Services on her often. You've harassed her over the years with complaints to Child Protective Services and the police.
Oh, yes.
And as a result of that, she's filed a counterclaim. When did the trouble start with Miss Hubel?
My son was taking my younger son, Dylan, and Jeffrey back to drop him off at his mother's work, the daycare. I was in between my bus routes. I'm a school bus driver. It was pouring down rain. He doesn't drive. So I ran down and gave them a ride up the hill about 1,500 feet to the daycare and dropped him off in front. And my grandson was ecstatic. Grandma dropped him off in the bus. I wasn't on my route. He ran in and I saw him gather all the kids that came to the window and they're all waving at me. So I smiled and waving at him. She walked over and slapped him and told him to get away from the window. I'm sorry. My older son was there, and they turned from the window. Her and the employees that were friends of hers said, let's call the school district and get her in trouble. I didn't know what was going on at the time. I went back on my route. I get a phone call on my bus. My supervisor goes, Debbie, what's going on? I go, I don't know what happened. She said, some lady called and said you kidnapped her kid on her bus. And I said, no, the only thing I did was pick up my grandson and my son. I was mortified.
So that's when the trouble started. What happened with that incident, Miss Hubel?
Actually, what had happened was, after numerous amount of times of her dropping Jeffrey off on the school bus without permission, I called the school district and spoke to her supervisor, with whom I have a letter stating that I was not harassing in any way, and that she was spoken to and told that he was not allowed to ride that school bus because he was not assigned that.
Okay. Had you, in the past, told your mother-in-law that you didn't want him riding the school bus?
No, we were not to be speaking at that time.
Why not?
There was orders.
So that the trouble started before that?
Oh, yes.
Well, then that's what I'm asking. I want to know when the trouble started.
The problem started actually before I left Joshua, my ex-husband. Probably it was the first time that he was arrested for assaulting me. My son was 2 at the time. From that point on, there was no kindling of the relationship with me and Debbie.
Okay. How many times had he been arrested for assaulting you?
Twice for assaulting me. The last time he slammed me into a wall and tore my rotator cuff, and I had to have surgery.
Has he been convicted on...
He sure has.
Did he serve any jail time?
Yes, he did.
How long?
He was sentenced to 30 days, but he ended up having an ankle bracelet because of whatever kind of medication he was taking. They wouldn't allow in the jail.
What kind of medication does he take?
Marinol.
What is that for?
I don't. All I know is it's THC in a pill. I don't know what it's for.
What kind of ailment does he have?
None that I'm
Do you
aware
know?
Yes.
What?
He has a cancerous esophagus. He has a heart condition, and he has epileptic seizures. So
Okay.
he's on...
You didn't tell me he was convicted of assaulting his former wife.
I need to clear something up.
Uh-huh.
Number one, the lease was in my name. I rented the building because it gave them an opportunity to have their own place.
I'm not interested in that. My question, Ms. Neville, is I asked you when the trouble began, and what you said was it started over this bus incident, which would have sounded really petty to me.
Yeah.
For her to file a complaint if she had a problem with you. You would all live together, pick up the phone and say, Debbie, I don't want you dropping Jeffrey off on the bus. But that didn't happen.
Correct.
So the problem started before. And common sense would indicate to me you would have not been happy with your son's arrest for assault and spending any time in jail, and that probably precipitated the bad feeling between the two of you, which predated the school bus incident.
No, it didn't. She misled you on that fact.
No,
So what you're saying is the assault occurred before the school bus incident.
Oh, yes. This was before we were divorced. The first incident was before we were divorced. The second incident was in February of 2003.
And when was the school bus incident?
January 30th, 2003.
What was the second assault about?
He came into where I worked, All About Kids, to do a visitation with my son. He came to pick up Jeffrey, and he slammed me into the door jamb of a wall and tore my rotator cuff, took off with Jeffrey. The police came. They went and found Josh and Jeffrey.
What was the altercation about?
A coat. A coat.
Now, I understand that you don't like each other. Don't like each other, I don't get involved in. You claim lost wages and punitive damages for defamation of character.
Correct.
You have 1 minute.
She called my boss. I have documentation when she called, and they logged it over to my boss. There's no mention that she's my daughter-in-law, that that's my grandson, or my sons that I'm picking up. It says that unknown people and her son. He was on a visitation with him, and his father gave permission for him to ride the bus. So I have permission to give him a ride on my bus.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Because if there is a court order of visitation, the court order of visitation provides that the child is to be picked up and returned at a specific location.
Correct.
Not by you.
Not by me.
But by his father.
And his father was on my bus. Let me explain, okay?
No. I want you to tell me what the lawsuit is about.
Okay. I'm sorry. So, I go back, I talk to my boss. My boss says, get an anti-harassment order because we don't want to deal with this problem. I did. I went before a judge.
All you had to do was stop taking your grandson off the road that you were supposed to be traveling with other children and not drop him off at the daycare.
Well, I hadn't had an opportunity not do that.
But Miss Neville.
I did what
Miss
the officer
Neville.
told me.
No.
That's,
first of all, that's hearsay.
Excuse me.
Listen to me.
Explain this. You're twisting this.
I'm not twisting anything.
You are.
Listen to me.
She's saying there was a DV assault, but they had got reconciled. They got together. They moved out. They left. She got caught cheating, having an affair with a high school kid.
Listen to me carefully. All you had to do.
Well, she doesn't mention that to you.
Just
I mean,
a second.
come on.
I'm talking about you and your lawsuit,
Okay.
which I'm going to lose my temper over in a couple of seconds.
Well, I've had to deal with it for 5 years. How do you?
You don't get 5 years worth, madam. What you're going to tell me is about lost wages.
Correct.
And punitive damages for defamation of character and slander. Get there.
What it had to do with is the whole school year of 2000 and 2004, she continued to make attacks on my person by making claims that my grandson's scared of me. She wrote the school this. She tried to get me removed from my school route by writing the school district.
Show me.
This is the statement, one letter that she wrote.
Okay, so after you stopped bringing him to the daycare, and there was no problem with that, she wrote this to the school.
Correct.
And you claim that this is harassment. I want to know what, this is a legal claim.
Yeah, she claimed she didn't want Jeffrey to speak to me or be near me, that he was scared of me.
Okay. She contacted the school to whom it may concern. You sent this to the elementary school? And it merely says that she does not want, for whatever reason, which she outlines here, she doesn't want Debbie Neville to contact him while he's at school.
Your Honor, the reason why is because there was an incident with Debbie and my son Jeffrey at the school. I have a letter from his principal in regards to that, as well as a letter from my son's therapist that he's been seeing since kindergarten regarding the incident.
The therapist in September of 2003, and I don't want to go back there, says it's best for him not to have contact with you. Okay. Get to 2005. Okay. I want to hear how you have a lawsuit against Miss Hubel for lost wages and defamation of character.
Okay.
This is not a therapy session, Miss Neville.
I know.
This is a lawsuit. So get there.
So several times I had that anti-harassment order. I had to call the police and report incidences with her, and I have copies of a few of those.
Not interested.
And so the following...
I'm not interested. I'm interested in defamation and lost wages. And if you can't get there, I'm going to dismiss your case.
I had to select a different route the following year to prevent her from further tormenting me.
Okay, good. That's not a lawsuit. What else?
I lost wages because of that, because I didn't take that route because she kept calling the school district.
That's the way things go.
Here's a letter from his bus driver.
I'm not interested in a letter from his bus driver. I don't see a lawsuit, Ms. Neville.
If you don't let me enter my evidence, how am I supposed to prevent a case?
I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me.
You just read documents that were not notarized, that I don't...
They're from school officials and a therapist.
The school official got fired because of what she did. Wrote that letter. She was not allowed to write that letter.
Listen to me. I'm not interested in anything that happened in 2003. This is not a therapy session. It's a court.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're going to have to move. Otherwise, there's going to be constant
It's not all that easy just to pick up and move.
It's not all that easy. Have the last 4 years been easy?
No.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Debbie Neville claims ex-daughter-in-law Sarah Hubel has slandered her at her job. Sarah is countersuing for harassment.
I'm going to hear your counterclaim. 30 seconds. Get there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, as of this year, a couple weeks ago, she just had taken me to court again, trying to get an anti-harassment order for me. It was denied. This was the second order that she had tried to get against me that was denied. I'm continually having to go into court because of her allegations.
Where do you live?
I live in Seattle.
Which she moved right next door to me. Why she had the restraining order, she moved right up the street from me, right on top of my bus route, just so she could watch me come and go.
Where does your former husband live?
He also lives in Seattle.
How far away from you?
Well, actually, they just moved. Maybe about a mile from where I live.
Seattle's a big place. Why don't you move farther away from them?
I don't move farther away from them because my son goes to school there. He has gone to school there since kindergarten. I work right across the street from my son's school. I live right down the road.
Who else
That's
lives
where
with
it's
you
always
now, Miss
been.
Hubel?
Christopher Crippen.
Who is he?
My boyfriend.
Does he work?
Yes.
How long was the custody battle that you had with your former husband?
2.5 years.
Did he want custody?
No.
So he wanted visitation?
Just visitation.
Does he have visitation now?
Not any longer.
When was that terminated?
In March of 2003, right after the assault, I went to the court to get a protection order for my son to ask for supervised visitation. And Josh denied in open court that he wanted to have any visitation with Jeffrey if it had to be...
Supervised?
Supervised.
So are you telling me that he hasn't seen his son since March of 2003?
Correct.
Is he living with you?
He is.
Very sad family case.
Yes, it is.
But one thing you seem to be both accomplishing is you're both accomplishing making this little boy crazy.
Excuse me?
You got to get over it, both of you.
I've never
You don't have a lawsuit. This case is this is not a lawsuit. This is aggravation.
It is aggravation.
It is aggravation.
It is.
You're causing each other aggravation. You have to stop.
Correct. But she won't stop.
I have the feeling, Miss Neville, and I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that if you had nothing to do with her, nothing to do with her, your problems would be over. I can understand why you're angry. I can understand.
Excuse me.
I can understand why you're angry. You have a son who's ill, who, according to you, has cancer. Takes medication.
No, it's not according
who's
to me.
been
I
in
have
jail.
the doctor's reports.
I'm speaking.
Right here.
You're not following.
You're making statements.
You are over here. You're not getting it.
It's not according to me. Here's some documents.
I agree with you. I accept the fact that he's ill.
And I don't call her job. I don't follow her around. I don't do that.
I have a feeling, Miss Neville, that Miss Hubel would like...
My witness can testify to her following me into the store, staying outside, waiting for me to come out of the store, and chasing me out of the parking lot. I've had her push a grocery cart into my leg.
You shouldn't have anything to do with each other. You shouldn't be near each other.
Honor, I thought it was supposed to be my turn to be giving my statements.
What I'm trying to do is to tell you, neither one of you has a lawsuit. You have created aggravation for each other.
What have I done to her? Excuse me, tell me. Do you have documentations of what have I called your job? Have I gone to your place of work? I avoid your place of work. My friends avoid you. The whole community avoids you because they're scared of you. They're scared if you get done tired being mad at me that they're going to stalk them. I have witnesses would not come because they're scared of her.
Well,
I lost business in my art because of her.
One way or another, if you want to live in peace, you're going to have to relocate.
Yes.
That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to move out of Seattle. And if you don't do it, then you're just prolonging this bad feeling because she has a grown son who has an illness. That makes her feel bad as a mother. She has a grown son who probably says to her that he's sad because he can't see his son. That makes her feel protective. Do you understand? There's a story which is the underpinning of this,
actually, my son
of this lawsuit. You're going to have to move. And the faster you do it, the faster you're going to be able to enjoy your life. Do you get it?
Yes.
Otherwise, there's going to be constant
It's not all
aggravation.
that easy just to pick up and move.
It's not all that easy. Have the last 4 years been easy?
No.
Your son's 9 years old. It's not as if he's a junior in high school that he has to reacquaint with friends when he's a junior and he's going to graduate. He's 9 years old. He'll adjust to a new school. You want peace? Move. Lawsuit's dismissed. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out, ma'am. Wait here.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Trong video hôm nay, mình sẽ chia sẻ đến các bạn quy trình tham gia một đơn hàng nhóm kính tại Nhật Bản. Đầu tiên, đó chính là tư vấn khám sức khỏe. Các bạn sẽ được liên hệ với phòng tuyển dụng của các công ty, gặp cán bộ tuyển dụng và tư vấn cụ thể về chương trình. Từ đó sẽ giúp các bạn lựa chọn được đơn hàng phù hợp và giải đáp tất cả các thắc mắc của các bạn liên quan đến đơn hàng và đất nước Nhật Bản. Sau khi nhận tư vấn thì các bạn sẽ thực tự tham gia khám sức khỏe tại các bệnh viện uy tín hoặc các bệnh viện mà các công ty đã chỉ định thì cán bộ của công ty sẽ đưa các bạn đi khám sức khỏe các bạn nhé. Bước thứ hai mà các bạn cần làm đó chính là nộp hồ sơ, khai form thông tin. Và hồ sơ các bạn cần chuẩn bị sẽ là đầu tiên đó chính là bản kê khai thông tin theo mẫu có sẵn của công ty để các bạn đăng ký tham gia thi tuyển. Bên cạnh đó, các bạn sẽ cần nộp một khoản cọc thi tuyển để đảm bảo rằng các bạn không bỏ thi giữa chừng. Các bạn cần chấp hành tốt nội quy và hoàn thành kỳ thi tuyển thì sẽ được hoàn trả khoản cọc trước khi thi đó các bạn nhé. Các bạn sẽ phải thực hiện các bài test IQ. Các bạn phải tham gia các khóa đào tạo nguồn nếu như đơn hàng yêu cầu. Bước thứ ba đó chính là thi tuyển. Các bạn sẽ được tham gia một khóa đào tạo ngôn ngữ, đó chính là tiếng Nhật, và được nâng cao tay nghề trước khi chúng ta tham gia kỳ thi tuyển. Và khóa học này sẽ khoảng từ 4 cho đến 6 tháng. Trong thời gian học, các bạn cũng sẽ được tìm hiểu về nền văn hóa của Nhật Bản, cũng như các kỹ năng mềm để giúp bạn trải qua bài thi phỏng vấn một cách dễ dàng. Bước thứ tư, đó cũng chính là bước cuối cùng, nhập cảnh. Sau khi các bạn nhận được thông báo trúng tuyển thì các bạn sẽ có khoảng từ 3 cho đến 4 tháng để chuẩn bị ngày bay sang Nhật làm việc các bạn nhé. Và ở trong khoảng thời gian này thì các bạn sẽ cần chuẩn bị cho mình đầy đủ các loại giấy tờ quan trọng như là visa, tư cách lưu trú, vé máy bay và hoàn thành hết các khoản tài chính đặt cọc. Vậy là mình đã vừa giới thiệu với các bạn quy trình để chúng ta làm hồ sơ đi đơn hàng nhóm kính khi đi xuất khẩu lao động tại Nhật Bản. Và cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi video của mình. Hẹn gặp các bạn trong những video lần sau.